Well, hello, educator friends. Ross here, your host on the School Life series. And in 2025, we're continuing something new, and I'm calling it Bitesize PD. So, in between guests that we have on the School Life series, I'm jumping on and I'm just sharing 10, 15 minutes of PD for you. Something that you can take with you throughout this week, something that maybe you've been reaching for, just longing for in your professional lives, but also for me, if you know me, I want to support you more in your personal lives as well. And so, if you've ever heard me speak, if you've ever taught with me, if you ever had me as a leader or as a principal, if you worked with me at School of Life, you know that I care more about you individually than I do professionally. Because if you are not your best self, then how can we expect you to be the best staff member or the best teacher, educator, whatever you are, whatever role you have? You can't be your best unless you are at your best. And so today's bite size PD is really for everybody. You don't have to be an educator to listen to this one because this is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about, that I have really focused on and worked on a lot in my personal life, but also my professional life as well. And I want to share it with you. And so today's topic is all about listening. And I'll start with this. If you want to be a better fill in the blank, anything in the world, then be a better listener, right? That's pretty powerful. But as a forever educator, I saw this time and time again in schools that I've worked with. I continue to see this in schools that I'm working with now. Every school that I'm in, if we want to be better at our craft, whatever that may be, then we have to be better listeners. So, for teachers, time and time again, the best teachers that I see in schools all across the country are the teachers that truly listen to their students. And I do mean like during lessons, I do mean as they are teaching, but I also mean in those down times too. When the student comes up to you and tugs on your shirt and says, Mrs. So and so or Mr. So and so, I want to tell you something. And I see teachers time and time again say, not now, go have a seat. Or I see teachers say, I don't have time. Or I teachers that have a look on their face that just says, I don't care. And then I see the student drop their head and walk back to their seat. And what did that perceive to our students? The best teachers that I see say, let me hear it, right? 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds of our day. That's all it took to hear that story. But there's more to it than just a story, or there's more to it than just an idea, because that might be the best idea you hear all day from any student or adult in the building, or what that student shares with you in that 30 seconds. Maybe something that they needed to get off their chest. Maybe something that's going on at home that you had no idea about, but they needed to tell somebody, and that was you in that moment. So that's just one example of teachers. For administrators, oh my goodness, the best leaders and the best administrators are those that truly listen. As a principal, I remember when this clicked for me. And I remember some of the first interactions I had with, let's just say, um, unhappy parents, parents that may have been upset about something, and then as they came in, um, whether it was a big deal to me or not, I knew that I needed to listen to them because what they were coming in and sharing with me, or they wanted to sit down and talk about, it was about their pride and joy, their child. So whether we were going to agree or disagree or not, I knew that I needed to just open the floor to them, let them vent, let them get out what they wanted to share. And then sometimes at the end of that, I still disagreed with them, and we could have a conversation about that. But a lot of times at the end of that session, then I realized maybe my eyes were opened, or I was able to look at the situation from a different lens. And maybe we did have more in common than I thought when that parent first walked in. And so, administrators, I know I get this a lot of times. Oh my goodness, parents, they're driving me crazy. All they do is want to complain. Well, when they're complaining because they care about their baby, right? They're not coming in and just looking for things. They genuinely care and want what's best for their child. And a lot of times, the best conversations that we can have are when we walk out of that office and both the parent and you as the administrator both realize that we want what's best for the child. It may look differently, but we both want what's best for that child. So we're on the same team. We're not on opposite teams here. Uh, Great leaders, great administrators, they also listen to their staff, right? I know it can be overwhelming at times if you're an administrator listening to this. All of the needs of your staff, you may have 50 staff members, you may have 150 staff members, and you feel like all of their problems become your problems and you have to fix all of them. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Listen, all right? Listen to them. Take the time out of your day to listen. You want to set up a calendar where they schedule times to come in and talk to you. However that works for you, do it, but do it well and truly listen to your staff members. Again, it may not be a big deal to you, but to them, it is. And if it is to them, then it needs to be for you. So take them serious and listen. We're going to talk about strategies on how to listen here in a minute. But listen to your staff members and leaders. You're never too big to listen to the students. All right, whether you have 200 students, 600, 1,200 students, take time every single day to be in the hallways, to be in classrooms. My favorite was the cafeteria, bus riders coming out of the school in the afternoons, car riders in the morning, whatever it may be. But listen to your students. Take time to build those relationships. And so those are just some examples as educators. And one thing that I see when I work in schools is when the adults in the building are really good listeners, guess what? So are the students. And as educators, that's what we all want, right? We want students that listen, that pay attention in class. And a lot of times teachers get frustrated when they don't. But then I've had that conversation with teachers before and adults, and they get frustrated with these students. I'm like, well, you're not listening to them. Or when I talk to you, you're not listening. If we have a staff meeting, you're in the back at your computer the whole time, typing away or on your phone. And then you expect your students to come in and listen and pay attention when you can't do that. So what I'm trying to say here is that we are the role models in our building. And even when we don't think the students are present or paying attention, they are. There's a student that's around the corner, or a student that is in the back of the classroom listening in as you come in. And so I come into your room and I say, "Hey, I just want to share something with you real quick." And you're too busy for me that you're typing on your computer and not listening. Or I see this as administrators a lot. Administrators, teacher comes into your office and you're like, "Yeah, talk to me." And you're looking away, you're typing an email. Are you listening? Are you truly listening? And there was a student that was coming to see the nurse outside of the office that watched that entire interaction. What are they going to go back to class to do? The next time that their teacher asks, or even a friend or a peer asks them a question, are they going to model what it means to be a great listener or be a great listener? And so everyone in the building has to commit to this. And it starts at the top, leadership, just like 99% of things in school setting. And then it trickles down to the teachers, the staff, ultimately to the students. And when we can do that and get that trickle flowing, then sky's the limits. And that's when we see real success happening at schools all across the country. And so those were a couple examples of educators. But I want to take a minute and just reflect and think about this in our personal lives too. Think about your situations that you've been in and times where you know that someone wasn't listening to you. For me, I can think of times where, I switched maybe a doctor or a dentist because I just felt like I wasn't being listened to, or they didn't have my best interests, but it all came back to listening. I'll tell you this, I pay 25 $30 more per oil change because I like the people that I take my car to because they listen to me. If I come in and say, I think there's like a little humming noise coming from here, they're going to listen. They're going to say, we're going to check that out for you during this oil change. Where I've been to other places and you say this, and they're like, yeah, don't worry about it, or we don't hear it anymore, right? You get that all the time. They must have, we didn't hear it. We don't hear it now. So they're not even wanting to look into it. I want to be listened to. I want someone to take me serious. Or here's one, our family likes Chick-fil-A. I mean, the food's great. I love it. But it all comes down to they always get our order right. If we go to other establishments, it's never right. There's something wrong. But you go to Chick-fil-A, you know that it's going to be right. Or another example are I love sports. I was a coach for many, many years. The best players, it doesn't matter if it's pros, college, high school, pee-wees, the best players are those that listen. I love when you see clips of huge players like LeBron James or some of the best college players, and they come out of the game and their coach pulls them aside and they're looking right in their eyes. They're nodding, they're paying attention, they're taking that criticism or whatever the coach has to say, they're taking it serious. And they go back into the game and they fix it and they figure out what they need to do next time. The best leaders, I've already said this, the best leaders are those that listen to those who they serve. They're not on a pedestal saying, I'm doing it my way. This is how it's going to work. The best leaders are listening and figuring out how to make this happen. And one of the things, and I have to give a shout out to School Life, who I work for, our School Life series here. School Life listens to those that we serve. The schools, the organizations, if you go and you look at our reviews, you'll notice review after review, 5 star after 5 star, our customers say they got it right, right? They listened to what I wanted to make happen and they made it come to life. Or I had a problem and they found out a solution for that problem. Our attendance was terrible in the dumps, and thanks to School Life, they listened to our needs and they found solutions, and our attendance is now here. And so I'm so thankful for that. But it's not just what we do for schools. Our CEO, Ken, she listens to her employees, every single one of them. If someone in production facility in Houston has an idea of how this could be more efficient, or maybe our products could be better, we listen, we try it. We don't just say, no way. And so that's truly a culture at School Life that I'm thankful to be a part of. So if you're a School Life customer, hopefully you've experienced that and you can attest to that. If you're not a School Life customer, then we would love to serve your school, obviously, and support you and be your partner in positivity. But most of all, we want to listen and see what your needs are and see how we can help. And so let's commit to being better listeners. Like, let's just start there and say, you know what? I think I'm a pretty good listener, but I could do better. Or I'm terrible at this. I need help. What can I do? And so, what are a few strategies that you can take with you today into your next conversation, your next interaction with any human being to be a better listener? And number one, and it's a huge problem in our society, and it's to be present, to put the phone down, to get rid of all the distractions, right? And so the biggest one I think is phones. We're always on our phones. We always have that phone down. As a parent, this is something that we really strive and hit on in our home is we put our phones like on the table, on our desk, away when we're having family time, right? They're not right there out in our hand where we can easily just check a message or answer a call or scroll Facebook or whatever it may be. We want to be present when we're together as a family, when we're with our kids. We model that really to our kids, and it allows us to be better listeners for them. And so do this, start by putting the phone away when you're interacting, you're having a conversation. getting rid of the distractions, right? Turn the TV down, turn the TV off. If you're in a crowded, noisy place and you're trying to have a conversation, and you know, if you're like me, you just can't focus at all, ask the person you're having the conversation with to, hey, can we step over to the side because I just can't hear you really well, or I can't focus on what we're talking about. Be intentional with your interactions so you can be a better listener and ultimately to be present in your conversation. And so listening, being an active listener, the best way that you can show that you're being an active listener is right here. That eye contact with the person that you're listening to and acknowledgement. Yeah, I hear you, nodding your head. Yeah, asking follow-up questions or saying, just so I know I got this right. This is what you said, right? That's good. And just acknowledging the person that is speaking so they know that you are listening to them. And so those are just a few things that you can do in any conversation, no matter how big, no matter how small, be a better listener. It sounds silly, it sounds funny, I know, but for some reason, we don't do it. So many of us, and I'm guilty of it, I'm not saying I'm perfect, is that we find ourselves not doing those three or four simple things as we are listening or as we're having a conversation. And then I think where we really miss the mark at when it comes to being good listeners and active listeners is the follow up. All right, we have a conversation, again, small, long, whatever it may be, and we just leave it. We leave it there. We don't follow up. So whether that's a text message, a phone call, another meeting, another check-in, just pop into a classroom or whatever it may be intentional about the follow-up and say, hey, we talked about this, and I found this out because another part of listening is we don't have to have all the answers. I really struggled with this as a principal, especially my early years, is I thought every interaction, every conversation I had to end with a solution, had to end with an answer. And when I realized that didn't have to be the case, I could say, hey, give me 24 hours or let me make a couple phone calls, let me check a few things, and I'll let you know. Then whew, the anxiety came down, the stress came down. And I think the staff and the people that I served really appreciated that I was going to find a good answer, not just an immediate answer, or to find the right answer, not just something off the cuff. And so the follow up is important. So important. Don't say, yeah, I'm going to get you an answer. I want to figure it out. And then dodge that person for the next week or try to avoid them or just never even pretend like our conversation happened. Uh, that's the follow up. And then with that follow up, transparency is so important. Hey, we talked about this yesterday. Told you I was going to find an answer. Here's the answer. I know it's not what you wanted, but here's why, right? Like the budget is gone, it's empty. We just don't have the funds right now, but let's talk about it in August and we'll make it happen next year. That's transparency. That's follow up. You know that I listened to you and you know why it's not happening right now. We could easily just ignore it and say, there's no funds there, and not even follow up with this person and let them know why it's not happening anymore. And so ultimately, what this comes down to is care, showing that you care about the individual stakeholders in your organization. And when people know that you care, that's when magic happens. That's when people are willing to run through walls for you, for the culture, for the organization, because they know that they are valued and they are cared about. And what this is customer service, right? When you look at the best organizations, the best companies in our country, around the world, what do they all have in common is they have really good customer service. And you may say, well, I'm a teacher, I'm a principal. Like, what do you mean customer service? Yeah, customer service should be your priority. What experience do you want to provide in your school for students, for staff, for parents, for grandparents, for the UPS driver that comes in, right? What experience do you want to provide to them? That is customer service. And we can start by being better listeners. And that's going to at least get the ball rolling for your customer service. Because when we're better listeners and we're doing this right, our customer service is top notch, that's going to give us the reputation that we want. So, what reputation do you want for your classroom? What reputation do you want as a teacher? Do you want to be the teacher that parents and students are dreading when the class list comes out? I don't want this person. I don't want this person, please. And then they get you and you're like, ah. Or do you want to be the teacher that says, I want my child to have that teacher? Like they are making phone calls, they are doing everything they can to make sure that their child is in your classroom. Do you want to be the school that parents are driving 30 minutes to and from? They're passing 5 schools on their way to your school every morning and every afternoon because they want their child in your school? You want to be the principal that their child they look at and say, I want my child to have that principal. Mrs. So and so or Mr. So and so knows what they're doing. Mr. So and so or Mrs. So and so cares about every single child in their school. It's amazing how they do it, but I want my child to be one of those students that they care about. That's reputation. What do we want others to feel when they interact with you? How do we want them to feel when they're in your building or when they come to your company or they're in your organization? How do we want others to feel? And then ultimately, at the end of the day, which direction do we want to go? I see this time and time again. I see schools and organizations that are sliding, backfalling because they don't have good listeners, because they don't have active listeners within their school or within their company. I see a lot of schools that are staying here and are okay with being stagnant because they just don't listen, because they don't have what it takes to grow. That's where we want to go. Whether it's baby steps, whether it's giant leaps, we should all be wanting to grow in our personal lives, in our relationships, in our work. Because when we want that, everybody wants that, right? It trickles down. It's contagious. We want to be the best. We want to be better than we were yesterday. And so I went a little long on this one. I told you I was passionate. This bite-sized PD is all about listening. Hopefully you took the time to listen. You didn't shut me off at the 30-second mark or the 1 minute mark. But if you made it to the end, I want to say this. Let's commit to 30 days right now. Let's all of us say, hey, we're going to take 30 days and we're going to be super intentional about being a better listener. At the end of that 30 days, reflect. Are my relationships stronger? Is my classroom a better place to be? Is my school happier? Is the staff that I serve happier because they know I'm listening to them? Be intentional about it. Talk about it. And let's see what we can do in 30 days. And if all of us can make a difference and be better listeners at the end of the 30 days, then just think about the impact that we can make in our schools and our communities and all across the United States. If you got questions on how to be a better listener, I would love to help you out. Reach out. Let's share. If you start taking some of this stuff and it works for you, I want to know. Let me know. Reach out. Share your experiences. If it's not working, then let's talk some more and figure out what we can do to further this. Like I said, since bite-sized PD, something I can talk about and go into a lot of detail in it for at least an hour, maybe a couple hours with you about. And so let's talk. But as always, I thank you for tuning in to the School of Life series. We've got some really special guests coming up as we continue to close out this school year, the School of Life series. And we've got a few more bite-sized PD topics that I am looking forward to sharing as well. If there is a topic that you're saying I'm struggling with, reach out, let me know, whether it's me or one of my friends, an educator somewhere in the country. We will find someone that is an expert in that topic, and we will be glad to bring them on as a guest and share. So until next time, continue to be great today.